The following program has been pre-recorded, so please don't call in at this time. If you'd like to participate in A Pause for Thought, tune in on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. on Baton Rouge Community Radio. Good evening, fellow humans. This is Wayne Parker with A Pause for Thought here on Baton Rouge Community Radio, 96.9 FM here in Baton Rouge. Well, we're glad to have you all here tonight. And tonight we actually have a couple of very special guests, representatives of the Poor People's Campaign, Jasmine Pogue, correct?
Yes.
And Mia Taylor. Thank you for coming on, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Before we get into Poor People's Campaign, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah.
Jasmine?
So I'm Jasmine, and let's see. What do you want to know about me? I've been in Baton Rouge for about 5 years now, and I'm a mom of a 4-year-old. And I recently decided to get into activism. I grew up in a middle-class family, and I didn't really have too much to think about throughout my 20s, but I just slowly started educating myself about different issues that affect other people, and just tried to tap into that part of my being that cares for other people, and so I started working for other people. I also became a Buddhist 10 years ago.
Nice.
Yeah, and so that has also been a driving force in developing that compassion for other people, and that kind of led me to the Poor People's Campaign and the things that we're doing with that.
Okay. And Mia?
Hi, my name is Mia. I'm born and raised in Baton Rouge, from North Baton Rouge, the forgotten area.
Yeah.
I am a local chef and just overall lover of my community.
Good. And what's the reason why you got involved with the Poor People's Campaign?
I really got into activism, period, because there needs to be a voice, and I didn't see faces that looked like mine or people who came from backgrounds like mine speaking up for what I wanted to speak up for, at least locally, and not enough. So I wanted to be one of the faces or voices.
Well, both, actually, but
Yeah.
Tonight you're just a voice, I guess. But you're a face to me, too. But you said people who came from your background. What background would that be, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a poor person. Hopefully not for long, but I'm still want to be a voice for those who don't have the positions I do or the closeness, proximity to people in positions. And just overall, I don't think many people from North Baton Rouge are outspoken or are being heard about their problems. I mean, overall, I believe a lot of people in that area are afraid to speak out, or just we're so used to people not listening to us,
Right.
that we become quiet and complacent. And I'm just tired of being complacent. I think about 3 or 4 years ago, I became active in my community, and to, I guess, Alton Sterling's death, I really came out of my shell, because, somebody has to speak up,
Yes, no, I totally agree. Okay, now let's get into what exactly the Poor People's Campaign is. Didn't Dr. Martin Luther King have a, stage up a
Yeah.
Poor People's Campaign?
Yeah. So the Poor People's Campaign was something that Martin Luther King called for back in 1968, and it was basically in response to, okay, we've gotten the right to vote, right? We've gotten a whole bunch of civil rights laws.
We African-Americans.
African-Americans, yeah, black people. So we've worked a lot on that, but there still needs to be focus. There are still issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the Poor People's Campaign is supposed to go past, or I don't like the word transcend, but I'm going to use it, transcend race, and not just focus in on black Americans, because racism, systemic racism, actually affects white people in a way that they become casual bystanders of rich people keeping black people down, and then white people also get affected by poverty because of that system that's been in place. And so poverty it affects everybody. It really does. And there might be levels to it, but it affects everybody. And so that's what he was calling for, is just gathering everybody across the United States of America, whether you're rich or you're poor, to demand justice for everyone.
Yeah, I think back during segregation, the wealthier or better off white people came up with the idea to play poor white people
Yes.
against black people,
Yeah.
saying, well, yeah, you may be poor and miserable and starving, but at
But
least you're not like them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, before that, I mean, even during slavery times, white people, there were poor white people who may have worked alongside or have known enslaved black people. But they could always say that at least I'm not that. You know, I might
Right.
be starving and I might not be able to put food on my table, but at least I'm not an enslaved person.
Right.
And so that's a good way to keep people down. I mean, it's a horrible way, right? But
It's very
it
effective.
Worked.
Yes.
It worked,
Yes.
and it still works today.
Oh yeah, in fact, I would say that they've made it into an art form.
Yeah.
They've got so many subgroups of Americans now at each other's throats,
Yeah.
hating each other, and
Yeah.
we can't unite.
Right.
But
Yeah.
anyway, okay, so the Poor People's Campaign is an activist group trying to change the dialogue or call people's attention.
Yeah, so we're calling forth for a moral revival and, just change the conversation. I mean, kind of going back to the previous point, you can bring up different topics that divide people, right? So you can talk about the right versus the left, or you could talk about abortion rights or anything like that, and that will definitely get a rile out of people. But when you talk about poverty, that affects everybody. So if we can just focus in on this issue, we could definitely find something that brings everybody together.
Yeah, I think most people, from what I've seen and from my own experience, it's out of sight, out of mind. I don't live around poor people,
Right.
so I don't know what they have to deal with every
Right.
day.
Yeah.
And that's a human thing where you just don't think about it. But yet, as you were saying, Mia, you feel you have a voice, or your community doesn't feel it has a voice,
Right.
and so it's feel kind of a hopeless situation. You kind of give up. And that's kind of what the Poor People's Campaign is trying to do, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, that's definitely.
I understand you've been stirring up trouble here in Baton Rouge
Yeah.
for the past couple of weeks, I guess. Last
Just
week and
a
this
little
week.
bit, yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we recently went down to the Capitol. And by the way, we're meeting every week at the Capitol, right off to the left of the Capitol steps, because the Capitol steps are under construction right now. So there's this big magnolia tree, and we're meeting down there.
This is the left side facing the Capitol?
Yes.
Okay, facing
Yes.
the front of the Capitol, I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that 3rd Street?
Yes, you're coming up on 3rd Street.
Okay.
The Capitol.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's where the statue of Huey Long is. I think that's Huey Long.
Sure.
There's a statue out there.
There's a huge magnolia tree. You can't miss it. It's right next to
Okay. Okay.
But so we're out there last Monday at noon, and we basically every week we just have a rally where we have some speakers based on the theme that's going on that week, and we have some speakers out there and they speak, preferably people that have experiences that intersects with the theme of that week within poverty and that theme. And we sing and we chant and we just have a great time, and then we take some action right after that.
Do you sign anybody up that's there? I mean,
Yeah.
Does anybody
So
volunteer?
we have people that walk by. They can sign up. We've had people do that, or just people that come and they might have heard about it, but they're not a part of the Poor People's Campaign. We sign people up and just get as many names and numbers, as many different types of people as possible.
Okay, and anyone wanting more information can go to Louisiana at poorpeoplescampaign.org, correct?
Yes, and we actually have a Facebook page, which is probably the easiest way to reach us, and that's just Louisiana Poor People's Campaign.
Okay, and then the phone number. Can I put that out? I mean, I think that was on your...
Yes, please.
504-322-4663. 504-322-4663. We'll repeat those
Yeah, thanks.
things, throughout the show just to get it out there. So you mentioned. Well, I want to talk to you about the trouble you've been making lately. Now, I saw the Advocate article about your activities on Monday.
Yes.
36 protesters with the Poor People's Campaign blocked the downtown Baton Rouge intersection for about 15 minutes, and then the cops hauled you away.
Yeah, well, they didn't haul all of us away, but we had, so we all marched down there singing songs and holding our banner, and we blocked off the street. And so we had a group of people who blocked off the street, and we were chanting and everything, and then we had a group of 9 people who sat in the street, and so they linked arms and just waited. So we, our smaller group or our larger group, we blocked off, we chanted, and then when the police were like, hey, you gotta go or you're getting arrested, we moved off to the sides.
Hey,
yeah.
I don't blame you.
And then the people who sat remained there until the police finally said that they were under arrest, and then they took them one by one. It was a very nonviolent action. There was no struggling or anything like that. We just knew what was going to happen, and we were prepared. We were prepared for it.
Yeah, well, that's part of what it's all about. I guess you're trying to call attention to these issues and your efforts, and you did that.
Right, yeah.
And this was all over the country, or like 35 different cities in America?
Yeah, so this past week, I think we had 17 states that participated with it. Over 300 people were arrested. I don't know the exact number, even though I read the article this morning. But quite a few people were arrested. 59 of them were in D.C. They have a huge group out there. But it's really amazing, actually, to see the different ways people are protesting across the United States pretty much on the same day, almost at the same time. It's really remarkable.
Yeah, it's encouraging. I've often lamented that all of the different groups like you and the Me Too movement, the young people, the March for Our Lives, if you could all just get together,
Yeah.
You have a lot of numbers, a lot of energy, and old folks like me can help you out.
Yeah. Well, and that's really what's interesting about the Poor People's Campaign, and what really struck me, and Mia could probably talk to this as well, is that when we went to our first meeting, we went together, there were people, there were white people, there were black people, there were old people, young people, there were Christians, non-Christians. The words that they used were super inclusive, very open to correction if they were using the wrong terminology when it came to LGBTQIA. It was phenomenal. I've never seen anything like that, let alone in Louisiana.
I have to agree with you. I've encountered it myself, and I wanted to mention too, give a shout out to the Islamic community in Baton Rouge. They're very active, and of course they're one of the ostracized groups from in the right wing anyway. Our media they get a bad rap, seriously. But getting back to your activities, the Advocate article described where you were. You blocked 4th Street, which leads to the Capitol, at North Street. And it says here, state workers from the Louisiana Department of Health and the State Department of Children and Family Services poured out of their offices to watch the scene.
Yes. And actually, Mia could talk about this because Mia came a little bit late to the demonstration, and she got to listen to a lot of the people talking on the sidelines.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting hearing everyone's response. Like they said, people came pouring out their office, probably because everyone was honking their horns very loudly. In
support, no doubt, right?
I'm sure.
Yeah, their way of support. But I think people are really confused about why people are protesting against the budget, even though, John Bell voted against the pretend budget. But, it's still technically almost on the table still. We don't have an actual budget still.
So, and that's kind of one of the things you're calling for is a moral budget.
Yeah.
Right.
Can you define that?
Well, I would like to also point out that, they put out this pretend budget, right?
Why are you calling it a pretend budget?
Well, that's what they called it, right?
No kidding?
They said that it was a pretend budget. This is not really going to go through and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But you put out something to enrage people. But when you go to redo this budget, you're going to still take stuff away.
Right.
And you're going to say, well, at least it's not as bad as what we said it was going to be.
Right.
And so it makes us accept something less then, right?
Yep.
And so we're calling for a moral budget. And, when people think about morality, a lot of the politicians are Christian. So when they think about morality, they really should be thinking about Jesus and the Jesus of the Bible that went through and said, hey, you give up all your riches and give to the poor and follow me. Or the Jesus that went through and said, why are you taxing all these people and turned over tables and was like, take care of the poor, and that's really what we should be, when we say a moral budget, that's what we want you to think about.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, I have a bumper sticker on my truck that says, strive to be Christ-like, not Christian.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that there's actually a difference between the two in many cases.
It really is. And Mia and I were both Buddhist, and we were coming up with signs for the rally and for the demonstration. And we were digging through the Bible. We decided, hey, let's look at some Bible verses on poverty. And when I started reading these verses, I was like, wait, this is in the Bible?
Yeah.
I was raised Christian, and I was so shocked. I was like, this is in the Bible? This is what Jesus said?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I understand, and I totally agree with you, and I don't want to make this just about religion, but
Yeah.
you know that is very significant. And yeah, we have all these chest-beating, proud folks there in the government passing pretend budgets.
Yeah.
We should ask them if they're a pretend government.
Yeah.
you know?
Right. 'Cause,
Well,
I mean,
What are they
you're
doing? Playing house here? You know?
Yeah.
You're passing a pretend budget that will eliminate SNAP. I mean,
Which is food stamps.
Food stamps.
Yeah. And where are these people going to go then? You know?
Yeah.
right. Not to mention, I mean, it's barely covering anything, period, what they allow us, people on SNAP, to receive, because I am not on SNAP currently. But it's really saddening.
Well, so you were on it before?
I actually grew up on food stamps.
So you got to eat steak every night, and
I didn't get to eat steak until I got control of my portion of the food stamps, which was my food allowance. And I am one of those people who went to Whole Foods and bought grass-fed beef because that's what I like. That's what I needed for my diet. I needed better produce than what was available to me, especially in North Baton Rouge, where currently we do not have any fruit stands.
Yeah.
Or affordable groceries, period.
Well, I was making a joke of the people that say that you can actually eat stuff like that
Steak every
day.
night and
seafood. I just did. Well, I mean, I did that when I was in high school. I don't do that now, obviously.
Yeah.
I know how food works.
Yeah.
You can't use that on your budget all the time.
Right.
Yeah. And then also just a point about North Baton Rouge is that, you know, there aren't any grocery stores out there. So if you are on food stamps, you have to go to these liquor stores basically to get any food. If you need to buy something for your kids at night or something like that, you have to go to these liquor stores. So
And there's a lot. Their food isn't the greatest in the world that they do have.
Not at all.
And that of course promotes poor nutrition, or causes poor nutrition.
Correct.
Increases health problems and everything else.
Yeah.
Which in the end become more expensive for society.
Yeah.
Right, because I used to go grocery shopping on the bus. So before we had our new bus routes that we had in 2012, there was only 12, 15, 17 routes or whatever. So I would take 2-hour bus rides to go get my groceries for the month.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 times a month, because I mean, there's only so much I can take on the bus, period.
Yeah. Well, that's a significant part of your life, living, on a bus,
Right.
running a bus. I want to remind the listeners we're talking with Mia Taylor and Jasmine Pogue of the Louisiana the Poor People's Campaign, and they can be
Louisiana
reached.
chapter.
Oh,
Yeah.
the Louisiana chapter, but it's the national movement of the Poor People's
Yes.
Campaign, and they can reach you and others here locally at Louisiana at poorpeoplescampaign.org or on the Facebook page.
Yes.
Louisiana Poor People's Campaign?
Yes.
Okay, on Facebook. And also call 504-322-4663 if you'd like to get more information on their campaign.
And they can actually, for anybody that's listening, we're going to be meeting at the Capitol on Tuesday. I don't know what day that is, the day after Memorial Day. And we're going to be meeting at noon right underneath the magnolia tree to the left of the steps. You're more than welcome to come out. Even if you just have questions and you don't want to participate with the demonstration, please come out. We really would like to see more people.
Okay, and the theme for that week, next week, is
Yeah.
the war economy,
Yeah.
militarism, and the proliferation of gun violence. How does all that affect poor people?
Yeah, so we actually are going to have quite a few veterans that are going to be out there. Veterans experience poverty at very large rates, and it's really sad, if you're... Well, there go two thoughts, right? So it's sad that our veterans even have to experience poverty, but it's also sad that people have to feel like they need to go to the military to escape poverty.
Yes, indeed.
There are large amounts of people that just they sign up at 17 and 18 years old because they're in poverty right now, and they see the military as a way to escape poverty, and then our government exploits that, you know.
Yes, and then once the government gets their use out of them, they kick them to the curb.
Kick them to the side.
Yep.
Some of them are disabled. Some of them have mental health issues that have come up because of being in the military, and then they don't have the care that they need, the money they need, or the resources that they need to take care of themselves. And yeah, it's really just unfortunate. It's very sad that we treat people that way, veterans that way.
What about the militarism and the proliferation of gun violence? How are they connected? I mean,
so basically just the amount of money that we spend on the military within this country, the glorifying of guns in this country.
Your glorification of wars, too.
Yeah, it's really amazing. There was a speaker last week, and I don't know all the details, so I don't want anybody to quote me on facts, but there was a speaker last week this past week that spoke about how much money the United States sends to Israel, and how much money Louisiana contributes to the government that then sends it to Israel to harm other people over there.
Yes.
You know, and the amount of money that we use to arm these rebel groups in other places, and just how we glorify just shooting down people, ask questions later. You know, it's shocking.
No, and I think there was an article just recently that the defense budget, so to speak, was audited, and they tried to suppress the audit. It said that they actually had $1.3 trillion that they can't account for. And that money, you know, that's going into the economy. I mean, they're actually probably the biggest subsidizer of the American economy. Yeah. And it's all these middle and upper class, you know, tech people and all that other thing, you know, making good salaries.
Or some black ops company that
overthrowing some other country's government. Yeah. You know? Mia, you were nodding your head or shaking your head. There's something you want to say? And I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I'm just really thinking about the numbers. Period. When we talk about the military, I think about our police locally, because, I mean, we militarize our police. If you have paid attention to the Alton Sterling demonstrations in protest, you can see on the pictures how heavily armed. I had a conversation in a Facebook group I'm a part of, and the conversation was geared towards, what was it? What's the word?
Photos?
Yeah, it was a photo op.
Yeah.
Right.
And it wasn't fake. And I had to tell the lady that it was very true. I mean, these are our police officers dressed up like they're going to war almost.
With black coverings over their names and their badges and everything else. I mean, they intended to intimidate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. There's that photo of that young black woman who was standing in the middle of Airline Highway, and they had 3 police officers in riot gear pulling at her to arrest her, and she stood there so calmly.
She has nothing on. I mean, she doesn't have any weapons that you can see. She's only carrying her phone in her hand.
And they were trying to arrest her, these 3 police officers, and it's so striking to see that. But you know what's really interesting is that our police officers, it's not like they make a lot of money either, you know, and it's funny that we are pitted against them, or they're pitted against us, when truly they are a part of our community, and they are also being used as pawns within the whole system.
Yeah, I agree, and it is a shame. You're right, and it's just one more example of the pitting us against them.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if the police were to boycott themselves, and what would change. You know, these teacher boycotts that are going around the United States, sometimes when I'm driving I just wonder, well, if the police officers decided to do that, and then they also demanded, along with pay raises, they demanded that the people, that resources get pumped into these communities where crime is happening.
Well, I think the police union's contract here in Baton Rouge forbids them to go on strike. That's something to think about. Why would a union agree?
Well, I think that's the point for civil disobedience, right? Yeah.
Yep. Okay, how about some of the other things you guys are doing? This week is the Linking Systemic Racism and Poverty.
Yeah. So that was this past action, and we had a few speakers out there because it wasn't just systemic racism that focuses on Black people, but also Islamophobia, xenophobia, and that sort of thing as well. So we had a speaker from the Muslim mosque here in Baton Rouge. He came out and spoke. Beautiful speaker. We had somebody speak about Palestine and Israel, like I mentioned, that came out there, and just really focusing in on how systemic racism and also different types of prejudices that intersect with racism affect poverty.
Sure.
Because poverty affects people on different levels. I think I mentioned that a little bit earlier, but it affects people on different levels. So, even white poverty and Black poverty can be very different. And then all of the ethnicities and races in between that, people are just affected in different ways.
Yeah, I would say that from my own perspective and experience, poor people in general are kind of looked down upon in America. You're failures. But yet, a lot of people it's forced on them from the cultural problems, the racism, or other kinds of discrimination, and that's not your fault. So especially Black people in this country, I think you've been held back ever since you came here.
Yeah,
even coming here was a negative thing.
Yeah, and it's really it's amazing that we're able to reason it away. I think that people have really bought into the American dream that if you work hard enough, you will get where you need to be. You will be rich. No, that's what they really think. If you work hard enough, you will become rich. And the chances of that happening for you, it's almost nil. I mean, if you think of a lot of the kids that are poor, right, that go, like a lot of young boys that are poor, and they go and they play football and basketball, and their parents put all of that in them in hopes that they make it to the NFL, and only a select few can even get there, and only a select few can even get to college, right, to the college level, and they don't even get paid to do it. And it's really sad that you put all of your eggs in the basket just hoping that you can drag your parents and your family out of poverty.
Yeah, and it's being so unrealistic and unlikely, really.
Yeah, it is.
And not for lack of effort or skill, just because it's highly competitive.
Yeah.
And just not practical in general. So again, we're talking with Mia Taylor and Jasmine Pogue here with the Poor People's Campaign. If you'd like to talk with them or contact them locally here, you can contact them on their website. Or is this a website or is
email
it
address?
Email address? Okay, Louisiana at poorpeoplescampaign.org, or on their Facebook page, or you can call them at 504-322-4663.
Yes. Or you can meet with us on Tuesday at
on the
noon.
left side of the Capitol, looking at the front.
Yes.
Underneath the large magnolia.
Yes, you'll see the construction, and once you're facing the construction on the steps, just look to the left where the huge magnolia tree. We would love to see you out there. We're going to be talking about the war economy, as we were just speaking about. We're going to be focusing in on that, but please come out. And we're going to actually be out there for the next 4 weeks. It will actually be on Mondays, but this one is Tuesday because of Memorial Day.
Right.
Yeah. And you can follow those events on the Facebook page, so that way you can keep up on that. At noon, to the left of the steps, under the magnolia tree. Lots of shade. We have water, too.
Good. And let's see, like you said, this next week's topic or theme will be the war economy.
Yes.
Week after that would be the right to health and a healthy planet.
Yeah.
Ecological devastation and health care. Want to say anything about that? Or
Yeah, actually, I reached out to the Green Army, so if they're listening, please call me. I reached out to them because we have a lot going on in Louisiana when it comes to healthy living, especially because of Cancer Alley. How much we just pollute this state. We're no longer a boot anymore because we're just throwing away our coastline, and people are dying and they're being unhealthy, or they're given unhealthy lives because of it. And so that's really what we're going to be focusing on. And then also the point that Mia made about being on SNAP benefits and needing to make sure you have healthy options.
Right.
That's also something that we probably will focus in on, making sure those resources are there so people can have those healthy options.
Yes, and of course they're going to need a moral budget to achieve that, or at least a sense, or at least a real budget as opposed to a pretend budget.
Yeah, and you see how you said at least? That's what we always go for. At least, can you please just give us? No, we've put enough money into this system. We have the money